Hello everybody. Today we'll be discussing about chapter 8. The name of the chapter is Human Health and Diseases. So welcome to session 1. So here now we have to study about health, what are the different ways how we can improve our health, as well as what are the diseases which affect our health. But even though there are certain disease causing pathogens or organisms which affect our health, naturally there are immunity in our body which helps in overcoming the effect of these diseases. So here first we'll concentrate on human health. So here what is a health? Initially health had different definitions given by different people. Like if you see that initially it was considered to be a balanced state of body with good humor. Later Indian Ayurveda, Hippocrates, all these gave different forms or different theories regarding health. Whereas a person having black bile was considered to have higher temperature, including or it indicated that he is having fever. But later after William Harvey discovered about blood circulation, about the body temperature, as well as after discovery of thermometer, it was considered that the good humor theory was completely wrong and there are different methods or different types of forms which are involved in having a good health. It included endocrine system, our immunity, our WBC cells, lymphocytes, mast cells, neutrophils, etc. Now this health, how can you define a complete health? That is, health can be defined as a physical, mental as well as social well-being. Health means it is physical, mental and social well-being is termed health. Now this health will be affected by three different concepts. One is genetic disorder, second is infection, and the last one is our lifestyle. So health can be affected by one, genetic disorder. When it comes to genetic disorder, it is not got after you are born. So genetic disorder means these are inherited or given by parents into the kids. There might be alteration in particular single gene or in the chromosome. Everything is referred into genetic disorder. Alteration in the normal genes which do not cause any positive characters or helpful characters, instead cause or certain types of deficiency in a child. This is inherited by parents. So that is genetic disorder. Next one is infection. When it comes to infection, infections are caused mainly due to pathogens. Disease causing organisms cause this infection. And the last one is our lifestyle. Lifestyle here involves that different forms, like for example initial state we were consuming only food which was cooked in your home, but later on what has happened, we are more attracted towards fast food. So that fast food contains higher amount of fat, cholesterol, etc., which affect our health. So our lifestyle, maybe it is not only food but also non-exercising, not making your body completely flexible to certain type of either yoga or a balanced diet. Everything affects the lifestyle as well as your health. So these three are the concepts which affect the health. Next one, we'll have to consider like how we can build up a proper health, that is mental, physical and social well-being. That can be done by using regular exercises or helping like yoga. If you do, what will happen is your mental health as well as physical health both will increase. Even yoga has an effect on your internal organs, that is positive effect, that it helps or it makes your body function proper. or else a simple morning walk is more than sufficient to improve your health. So balanced diet, exercises, regular exercises, knowing about the particular, if you get a cough, now what will happen is we'll be very much scared because of the pandemic. But here knowing about a particular disease is very much important to get the medicine. You have to identify the disease first, you have to know what are the effects or what are the signs and symptoms, plus you have to improve your immunity, or else you have to depend on certain type of synthetic tablets or syrups. That is how you can improve your health. Now when it comes to three different forms of effects on human health, we should also know about a improper functioning. That is the second part of the chapter, that is disease. Now what is a disease? In a body, if the organs or organ systems are not functioning properly, or they are altered by some particular substances which normally show certain types of signs and symptoms. So these are termed disease. So what is a disease? In a normal body, if the organs or organ system functioning is altered, it leads to certain types of signs and symptoms which are termed disease. Now diseases can be classified into two different forms. One is infectious, another is non-infectious. Infectious diseases and non-infectious diseases are the two types. To define infectious disease are the one which spreads from one organism to another organism, maybe due to aerosols or maybe due to certain types of utensils which are used by an infected person. So this can be spread from one individual to another individual. So those are called infectious diseases. Next is non-infectious diseases. Non-infectious diseases means these do not spread from one individual to another individual directly. That means either there should be, if you consider infectious, even through touch, cough, sneeze, anything the disease spreads. Whereas as in non-infectious diseases, through sneezing, through touching and all, these diseases do not spread from one individual to another individual. One of the dangerous infectious disease that can be considered as AIDS, and one of the non-infectious diseases that can be considered cancer. These do not spread from one individual to another individual until and unless the cancer causing cells are transferred into the body of the organism. Through touch, through sneeze, these cancerous cells do not spread. Now these two are the types of diseases. Now we have to concentrate on the organisms which cause this disease. Disease causing organisms are termed pathogens. So pathogens means the organisms which causes diseases. Now what are the organisms which can be included under disease causing? So that will be bacteria, virus, protozoan, fungi, helminthes. All these are protozoans or pathogens which causes diseases. So pathogens includes bacteria, fungi, virus, protozoan and helminthes. So all these come under pathogen category. Now we will be studying about individual organism or individual pathogen as well as certain examples. So first let us consider bacteria. So bacteria, disease causing organism. First one, the disease will be typhoid. So typhoid is the disease which is caused by a bacteria. that is Salmonella typhi. Salmonella typhi is the bacteria which causes typhoid fever. Now what happens, or what are the symptoms of the typhoid? What happens is, initially the body temperature increases from 39 degrees centigrade to 40 degrees centigrade. That is, high fever is the first symptom what you can see. Now how does this typhoid or the Salmonella bacteria enters into our body? These enters into our body with the help of contaminated or consumption of contaminated food as well as water. This transfers the bacteria within the body. Once they are within the body, they first attack or first reach the small intestine through blood. From blood, or once the food is engulfed or water is engulfed, they get digested, they get transferred into the blood, and from blood this bacteria gets transferred into the small intestine. Once they reach the small intestine, first thing happens is the increase in the body temperature. That increases up to 39 degrees centigrade to 40 degrees centigrade. Apart from this one, there will be loss of appetite, constipation will be there, stomach upset or stomach pain will be seen. In certain severe cases, if at all it is not treated, then in certain severe cases they attack or they cause perforations. Perforation means if the intestinal wall is like this, there will be holes caused in the intestine. So that is what is termed perforations. These holes caused in the intestine will certain time leads to death also. So that is only in case of severe attack of Salmonella typhi, or if it is not treated in the initial stage. So that is about the signs and symptoms as well as the pathogen which causes typhoid. So typhoid is caused by Salmonella typhi. They enter into the body through contaminated food as well as contaminated water. Once they reach, they get transferred into the blood and reach the small intestine, causing intestinal upsets, that is stomach pain, headache, constipation, loss of appetite, etc. And only in severe cases they cause perforation in the intestine and sometimes even lead to death. Now if the individual is having typhoid, that can be identified using a test called Weidel test. Weidel test. Weidel test is done to identify the typhoid as well as the bacteria Salmonella typhi within the body. Now there is a classic case regarding this typhoid. Why this typhoid had got very much importance, that was somewhere around 60s and 70s. That was because of a lady called Mary Mallon. Mary Mallon, she is famously called Typhoid Mary. Why is that? Because Mary Mallon was the carrier of this typhoid or carrier of the Salmonella typhi bacteria, and she was unaware of that, and she was a cook. So unknowingly she contaminated the food what she provided to the citizens. Regarding food, she added, or the food what she cooked unknowingly get or transferred this Salmonella typhi into the food, and this led to the death of large number of people who had consumed her food. So that is why the classic case of Mary Mallon is very famous when a typhoid story or a typhoid is discussed. So she is commonly or famously called Typhoid Mary. So that's regarding the first disease, that is bacterial disease, that is typhoid. Next one, next bacterial disease, that is pneumonia. So pneumonia is caused by two different forms of bacteria, or two types, that will be Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenza. So these are the two different forms of bacteria which leads to or which causes pneumonia. Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenza. Next, now coming to the effect or what happens if an individual is affected by this pneumonia. So if an individual is affected by pneumonia, first it affects the alveoli of lungs. Lungs normally ends in this alveoli where there will be exchange of gases. So for lungs, this alveoli is very much necessary, which helps in separating or taking up the carbon dioxide in the body and giving up the oxygen. So this alveoli will be affected because of this pneumonia. What happens is the fluid will be filled in the alveoli and interrupts in the gas exchange. So this alveoli is affected initially. So if pneumonia is caused, the individual will be subjected to continuous coughs, hoarseness as well as mucus filled in the alveoli. Certain problems will be respiratory, that is breathing difficulty can be seen if there is pneumonia in higher amount. Severe cases of pneumonia, it leads to the bluishness, that is from grey color to bluishness of nails as well as lips. In severe cases, lip color as well as nail color get turned from grey to bluish color. So that's about pneumonia. The pneumonia caused by Streptococcus pneumoniae or Haemophilus influenza, it affects the alveoli which causes or which is filled with fluid, which leads to cough, headache, hoarseness, and this leads to certain respiratory, that is breathing problem. In severe cases, the lips as well as nails get turned from grey to blue color. So that is the effect of pneumonia caused by two different bacteria. Certain other type of bacteria or different forms also causes plague, dysentery, etc. These are the in together different types of diseases caused by bacteria. Next is virus. And the very common disease, if at all the temperature varies, viral disease is common or viral fever is very much common. The first disease which is caused by virus, that is common cold. Common cold, it is caused by a virus, what is termed rhinovirus. So there is a difference between pneumonia as well as common cold, even though the symptoms are very much common. Here in common cold, what happens is the virus affects the respiratory tract, not the alveoli. The lungs and alveoli are very much free from this virus. Instead, they cause disease to the respiratory passage. That will be the nasal cavity, especially the nose. Here what happens is, due to the effect of this particular virus, the nasal region or the nose region, it will be filled with mucus. Okay, so continuous flow of mucus, running nose what we commonly call. So running nose or the excess mucus which will be pushed from the nose, it affects, normally blocks will be seen if at all the mucus solidifies or if it is not properly removed from the nasal region, it normally blocks the nasal region. Here also cough, sneezing, headache, these are the common symptoms, and this retains in the body for almost about 3 to 7 days. So 3 to 7 days this rhinovirus will be retained in the body. Naturally your immunity develops and this can be removed, or else you can depend even on medicines to remove this rhinovirus. So this rhinovirus commonly affects the nasal tract and that is called common cold. Common cold is the disease caused because of this rhinovirus. It affects, as I have told, the respiratory passage or the nasal cavity or the nose, which increases the mucus and helps, or continuous flow of this mucus causes either coughing, sneezing, hoarseness, headache, etc. So this retains in our body for almost about 3 to 7 days. So that's about viral disease, that is common cold caused by rhinovirus. Next is a protozoan and the disease caused here is malaria. So malaria disease, it is caused by a protozoan that is called Plasmodium. So there are different species which come under Plasmodium. That will be Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malaria, Plasmodium falciparum. So these are the different species which come under genus Plasmodium and which leads in causing the disease malaria. Out of the three different forms, that is Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malaria and Plasmodium falciparum. Out of these three, Plasmodium falciparum is the one which is malignant. Malignant means it is a very dangerous malaria causing or particular disease causing organism, that is Plasmodium falciparum. The natural disease what we call commonly malaria, it is got because of Plasmodium vivax. In order to know this disease properly, we should first identify or understand the Plasmodium vivax life cycle. So first we will study about Plasmodium vivax life cycle and then we will discuss about the disease malaria. For that you have to draw the diagram. This is the life cycle of Plasmodium vivax. So now when it comes to the life cycle of Plasmodium vivax, we should know that this Plasmodium vivax life cycle includes two different hosts. Those two different hosts will be mosquito host and human host. When it comes to mosquito host, this mosquito can also be considered as a carrier or vector. The reason why it is called a carrier and vector is here the mosquito involved will be female Anopheles. Female Anopheles mosquito is the one which is the host here, and human host is the one more host. Now the initial will start with mosquito host. The life cycle initiates with the matured Plasmodium vivax form, that will be sporozoites. Sporozoites are the matured form of Plasmodium vivax. This from the salivary gland, or these will be collected in the salivary gland of the mosquito. Whenever the mosquito bites a healthy human, this sporozoites gets transferred into the body of the human. Now when the mosquito bites human, they feed on the blood of the human. So when the sporozoites get transferred into the human beings, through blood they travel into the body and reach the liver of the human. These sporozoites get transferred or penetrates into the liver, and in the liver these sporozoites, they divide here asexually. Asexually the sporozoites divide inside the hepatic cells or liver cells. They will divide themselves, and once they divide or their number is very much more, the liver cells or the hepatic cells burst to release this spores, which are produced through asexual reproduction within the hepatic cells. These spores are normally termed merozoites. These merozoites reach the RBC cells. These are RBC cells. So these merozoites reach the RBC cell or affects the RBC cell, and once again they undergo here asexual reproduction even in the RBCs. The asexual reproduction within the RBCs helps in multiplying them and increasing their number. Once again, the asexual reproduction leads to increasing number or production of the gametocytes. Once their number is more, these gametocytes will be released by bursting the RBC. Now this is the time when the malarial symptoms can be seen in a human. So what did I tell? Sporozoites enter the liver through blood. They enter inside hepatic cells or liver cells, divide themselves asexually and release the merozoites. Merozoites enter into the RBC cells. Here also they divide or undergo asexual reproduction to produce the gametocytes, and RBC cells burst once the gametocytes are very much more inside them. During the bursting of the RBC, they release a chemical, and that chemical is called hemozoin. Hemozoin is a chemical which is released when the RBC cells burst to release the gametocytes. These hemozoins cause the malarial symptoms. That is, the basic malarial symptom will be chills with fever. That is caused because of RBC bursting. Now whenever an individual is affected by malaria, the doctors suggest them or suggest him or her to have a blood test. The reason why they do this blood test, to see the RBC count. If there is reduction in the RBC count, indicating that the individual is affected with malaria, if at all he have the fever and chill symptoms. So that is about the bursting of RBC to release the gametocytes. Once these gametocytes are there, there will be two forms, male gametocytes and female gametocytes. This will be present just below the skin in the blood. So whenever one more mosquito bites this affected individual, then these gametocytes are taken up along with the blood meal when the vector or the mosquito, that is the female Anopheles, either the same or the other mosquito, if it is having the blood feast, then this gametocytes also will be drawn into the body of the mosquito. This gametocytes reach the stomach wall of mosquito. So here you can see that there is fertilization taking place, and this fertilization takes place in the stomach wall of the mosquito. So once there is fertilization in the stomach wall, then they develop or they mature to form again the sporozoites. Once they are matured, they migrate directly to the salivary glands of the mosquito and wait for one more human host to feed on, or they can repeat on the same human host. So that is how the Plasmodium life cycle is explained. So to explain here, two more concepts, that is human host and mosquito host. Out of this one, which is the primary host? Mosquito can be considered as the primary host because sexual reproduction, that is the fertilization or combination or fusion of male and female gametes, takes place inside the mosquito. Whenever, if you see in human host, we have not come across any type of sexual reproduction within the human host. That is why human host is considered as secondary host and mosquito can be considered as primary host. Here mosquito is also the vector which helps in carrying this Plasmodium vivax. If you see the effect of Plasmodium vivax in mosquito host, there is no effect or no symptoms which can be seen in mosquito, or if at all seen, it is not at all discovered so far. So these are just carriers without any effect. So once again, to discuss about the life cycle of Plasmodium vivax, here Plasmodium vivax involves two different hosts, mosquito host and human host. Mosquito will be a female Anopheles mosquito. So the female Anopheles mosquito's salivary gland contains the matured stage of Plasmodium vivax that will be in the form of sporozoites. These sporozoites get transferred into the liver, and once they penetrate into the liver, what will happen is they affect the particular liver cells called hepatic cells, where they undergo asexual reproduction and multiply themselves. Once their number is very much high, they burst the hepatic cells and release the merozoites. These merozoites are taken up by the RBC cells, where here again they undergo asexual reproduction. Once they undergo this asexual reproduction within the RBC cells burst themselves, releasing a chemical called hemozoin. This hemozoin chemical is the one which is responsible for malarial symptoms in humans, that will be frequent chills with fever. Once this RBC cell burst, they release gametocytes, that is male and female gametocytes will be released. This will be present in the blood just below the skin, so that it waits for the mosquitoes to take up. If at all the mosquito doesn't take up, this gametocytes ends or dies within the human host. So once these gametocytes are present in the blood, if the mosquito host or the female Anopheles mosquito bites this affected individual, the gametocytes are taken back into the mosquito host, where they undergo sexual reproduction in the stomach wall of the mosquito. Once there is particular sexual reproduction taking place in the stomach wall of the mosquito, they mature there, they develop there, and then once again reach the salivary gland of the mosquito, and thus the life cycle of Plasmodium vivax continues. This is about the protozoan disease, malaria. So here prevention method will be normally closing the water, especially why we have to close the water, especially pure water, because if it is contaminated water, normally they mosquitoes do not reproduce or place their eggs inside the water, pure contaminated water, but particularly they choose pure water. It should be properly closed, or else if you see coconut shells and all, it should be properly buried, or it should be torn into smaller pieces, and it can also be used as fertilizers. But pure water should not be stored. So if stored, then it should be covered properly. In wells and ponds and all, what we can do is we can release a particular type of fish called Gambusia, which feeds on this mosquito larvae. So the only method we can prevent this disease is by undergoing proper prevention, either using mosquito nets or ointments and avoiding the mosquito bites. So that is about Plasmodium vivax life cycle as well as malaria. Rest of the disease will be continuing in next class. So to summarize, in today's class we did learn about health, we did learn about diseases, types of diseases, pathogens, we had learned about different forms of organisms which causes diseases, we had studied about bacteria, which are two different forms of bacteria which causes typhoid and pneumonia, we have learnt about virus which causes common cold, and we have initiated the protozoal disease especially with malaria. Thank you.